Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome around. We're live tonight here at Homestead, Miami, for the Sim500 Nemesis Lab K&N Series. Sorry about that. But I tell you what, well, they're in qualifying right now. These guys, man, are trying to get geared up. This has been an exciting series so far. I tell you, it's a wild one. Well, I'm Joe White up here in the booth. Got Jeff up here. We're coming off an off week. Excuse me. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight.
No, we're not.
We're coming off an off week last week. I guess I fell asleep on that off week, I reckon. So, what's going on, man?
I'm sorting out technical issues on my end, but it looks like they're all resolved, and I am just getting excited for a great race here. 110 laps at Homestead Miami Speedway. These cars, it's interesting. We talk every week, every single week, about how these cars just get stuck to the wall when you hit it, and it seems like every track we go to, you're up running near the wall. It feels like we were at Darlington before, and now at Homestead, where you can run the high line here. So expect to see if a car hits that wall, they're going to get glued to it. That's going to be a huge factor in this race.
Yeah, you know, Darlington last week, a tough track to call it too tough to tame, and you combine that car, well, you combine the track with this car and the tire model, and it can be a nightmare amongst a lot of these guys as qualifying comes to an end, dribble up. But tonight, Homestead shouldn't be too bad. I mean, they got a little bit of groove, but you're right. I got a feeling they're going to migrate to that top side eventually, but let's grid these guys up here and get them set. Anthony DeBarro, we know he knows how to get it done here tonight. Man on the outside, Steve Goschalk's right there with him. E.J. O'Rourke, he's fast. Week in and week out, starts third. Mike Motessi's there in fourth. Chad Coleman up to fifth. We got Tommy Ryan sitting in sixth. Brian Macklin up to seventh. Timothy Johnson to eighth. Gael Brooks, good qualifying run for him up to ninth there. Nick Silver rounds the top 10s. We look to the rest of this field. You know, it's Homestead, and again, well, it'll be unique to see how this car, you know, kind of reacts to this track. I've watched the Cup cars in the past, but never really have seen too many K&N cars take on this track.
That's true. It's sort of an odd combination here. Running the K&N cars at Homestead Miami Speedway. You don't see it often. I think I've run it once or twice sort of in the back of my memory, but it's something you don't see often. So if these guys haven't been testing throughout the week, they weren't participating in practice, let's say, that's a steep learning curve to drive a car that you haven't really seen at a track like this before.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one there because, like I said, it has been a handful with this car, and most of these guys, they're very familiar with the Cup car. And just to give you an idea here, Jeff, this past Monday at the Trans Service Cup Series here with Sim500, they did race Las Vegas, by the way. It wasn't Auto Club. So we raced at Las Vegas.
Good.
Yeah, it was Las Vegas, but caution-free, 135 laps. It was caution-free. So that tells you right there, the talent's on the track. The guys know how to get it done. But we've said it week in and week out. This car, this tire, this package has just been kind of a nightmare, and it's been way different.
Yeah, different is certainly the word for it. These cars are actually modeled based on the older Cup cars. They've got the power to it, so calling them the K&N cars, people understand what we're talking about, but it sort of gives almost a bad impression of the power of these cars. These are the old Cup cars from about 10, 15 years ago. So take that into consideration, folks that are watching, when you're looking at this race and how these guys are driving it. If we have any in-car cameras, you'll be amazed at the power these cars are putting down. So essentially, I'm agreeing with you, Joe, that it's a big, steep learning curve, but these are some very talented drivers. They've shown it week in and week out. We saw some fantastic battling last week. One thing we say every week is it's not the fastest car that wins the race, it's the first one across the line. I think that theory will hold true this week, and we'll see another crazy finish. I don't think we've had one dull finish in the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, week in and week out, there's just been some wild finishes here. You definitely agreed. It's been the first guy across that line, and sometimes it's not the one we think. It's usually a wild one at the end, but, we're getting set here to go green flags. The pace car is off. The man up front, Anthony Navarro, is going to lead them to the green, and we're racing here at Homestead.
A great jump up there for the 27, and that's what you need as E.J. O'Rourke, our championship leader. He is tucked down below Steve Gottschalk. Man, I'm just so excited. I can't even speak here as E.J. O'Rourke clears them, and they are starting to get single file.
And the biggest thing, too, is tires here. Tires will wear off in the big time. What you want to try to get early on is all the positions you can. You see a good battle going on back here. Almost some side-by-side trading paint between Ted Coleman, Brian Macklin and company. But you've got to get what you can early because, these tires will fall off. Everybody will kind of go single file. And that's the kind of brings me back to the Las Vegas and Auto Club. Those, the starts are chaotic. But after a while, everybody tries to fan out.
Speaking of fanning out, we see the top 5 are starting to pull away back behind them. Actually, 7th place is side by side, 8th place is side by side. Doug Roth having a pretty good run here at the start of the night. He is holding on, and it's just, once these cars get single file, it's hard to start making passes. Like you said, it's the tires, and just these guys get all spaced out. It's who can hit their marks the best. As we are seeing over the course of these 3 laps so far, it's starting to get single file on the long freight train around this 1.5 mile track.
Absolutely. The front, like you said, the front guys there are all in a freight train line. Got to go a little further back to maybe about the 12th place spot on back for you to get side by side. You get the 35 machine there. Brian McRae, I hope I said his last name right. If not, I'll apologize on that one. Samuel Baumgarten. What's that again?
I think it's Baumgarten, but I'm not sure. As he goes to the inside of Doug Roth.
Yeah. Well, we'll just go right now. We'll just go with Samuel. How's that? That'll work for me. I usually default to the first names if I have a problem with the last ones there, and I'll find out later on how it's pronounced. But a good battle, like you said, there between Samuel and Doug Roth, calling the king here.
Issues.
Man, what we got?
Oh, we had an amazing save. That's what we had. The 4 car got up into the wall, Robert Gillenwater, and it was just a whole series of checkups behind him. Getting into the wall here will certainly damage the car. Who's that? 38 had an amazing, amazing save. Richard Swavely somehow managed to keep that car straight after the 4 car got into the wall.
Wow, right there. That happens in the back, and those guys are still side by side back there. That's a little further on back in the 20-some position. You got those guys. You got Scott Simley, Jay Graves back there, Sean Castro, Robert Gillenwater, like you mentioned there. And that's the thing with these cars. They're going to get a little slick, I think, later on. Just that tire package here is, I don't know. And yeah, oh, wait a minute. Graves is in the wall hard. But he was able to hold up there. Everybody's okay.
It's certainly easy to do here in these cars, and like we said towards the beginning, once you hit the wall, the car just gets stuck to it. It's like it's glued onto it. It's something about these cars, so we have to keep an eye on that. We've seen it twice now. Everyone's managed to keep it straight, but for that to happen twice it's a miracle in these
Well, here,
cars.
Jeff, I think I know what the issue might be happening back there is unfortunately Patrick Colby.
Dug Roth in the wall.
Yeah, Patrick Colby is kind of blinking a little bit bad back here in the back. That kind of can upset you too if you're really close. I saw him blink a couple times. It's something you don't want. You know, we experience on the virtual world here. There's some things you just can't control. It's out of your control. But he blinked a couple times there. That might actually, stack up that field back there. As those guys kind of don't want to get really close. Don't know, but yeah, Doug Roth up in the wall back there. So kind of something to keep an eye on. That might be actually checking up some of those guys. And again, you mentioned it, as high as they go, get stuck on that wall, there's nothing you can do.
This is probably one of Kyle Larson's favorite racetracks because sometimes the higher you are, the faster you are. Granted, that's with more open setups and that whole idea, but these guys, if they can run up near the top, it can be a lot quicker. You get a great run down the back stretch or the front stretch. So, but the cost of that is if you hit that wall even once, it throws away 100 laps worth of work.
Just kind of watching still this battle back here with Patrick, Nick Cohan, Doug Roth. I mean, it's a good side-by-side battle as they're still kind of single file up front there with Anthony DeBarro leading it. But, man, we got a good side-by-side battle back here. Doug Roth and company, it's back here in about the 22nd, 21st position.
We've also got Steve Bavacqua in the 36, the Peeps car that we like to check in on quite often. He's having himself a really good run. The bright pink car running in 16th place, gained a position in the first 10 laps, and he is sitting right on the back bumper there of the cars in front of him. He could be a force to be reckoned with, have a good top 10 finish here tonight, I bet.
Just don't mash the peeps. We'll throw a hashtag. Don't squash the chicks out there. How's that?
Duly noted. Do not squash the chicks. That is good advice for any aspect of your life, but is meant purely and only for this 36 car Steve.
That's right. There you go.
Peep Steve.
The Peeps machine. We like watching him week in and week out there. He's actually battling along with Bobby Wetzel. Man, Bobby Wetzel, one of the veterans here, and it looks like Steve's going to try to see if he can't take that spot. Check on our leader right fast, Anthony DeBarro. He's been able to lead a lot of them throughout the field from the start to the finish here. As right now, actually one of the fastest on the track, as E.J. O'Rourke's not been able to close in too much on him, but he's able to hang with him right there.
Yeah, it looks like the draft is actually playing a larger role than I think I anticipated. All the guys behind him are running faster laps, but nobody's really gaining on him all too much. They get a little bit closer, they lose some ground again. E.J. O'Rourke seems to be holding at about 2 car lengths back off of him, but making passes here and at any track in these cars is pretty difficult. You got to get a good run on the outside. As we see Brian Macklin in the back there, he is on the outside. He just can't get around the outside there of Tommy Ryan, and he falls back in line. Maybe he'll get a run going down the backstretch as he gives him a tap to the back bumper to show him he's there and wants a spot.
Absolutely good. I was just watching that battle there. Tommy Ryan and Brian Macklin, those two were side by side for the moment. You got Mike Matesi there just looking and seeing if those two guys make a mistake. Don't count out Timothy Johnson there along with them. But they're still back door to door. Brian and Tommy right there out of the turn. Again, this track, hey, it's built with momentum in it. You know, that high lane is the place to be, like you were saying before. And I think as the tires wear on, you see that inside car, it gets a little tight and wants to push up the track.
It not only gets a little bit tight, but in order to keep that position and try and make a pass on the inside, you use up more of your tires. That is very aggressive. It may not look like it, but Brian Macklin has to drive that car pretty aggressively to even stay side by side. So he's using up his tires, and I think he's gambling on a caution coming out. He'll come down, pit, take 4 tires, and it'll all even itself out. But if we get a long green flag run here, and these guys spend a lot of time battling side by side, that car that's on the inside is using up a lot of their tires, as Tommy Ryan might try and get a run on the inside here as Brian Macklin makes the pass, but Tommy Ryan is right there at his quarter panel.
Yeah, good battle right there amongst those two guys, their nose to tail. That brings actually Mike Matesi there up on their back tailgate along with Timothy Johnson. So now you got, instead of a 2-car battle, you got a 4-car battle. And in front of them, Chad Coleman's looking like he wants to take over Steve Goschalk.
Diving to the inside, that's a great run for that 91 car. It seems like he's up near the front a lot, but sometimes the finishes just don't come to him. He's going to be smart and patient this week, and it should work out well for him. I say that, and he might be preparing for a run on the inside of that 20, but he doesn't have the momentum to do it. Those cars behind that group before that we were talking about has caught up.
Yeah, now we've got a slew of machines there, and I think what we're starting to see now here, Jeff, is tire wear. Guys that are better at managing a long run. As actually you see Brian Macklin look to the inside there of Steve. We'll see if he can't take that spot away. We actually call him Nerf because he's always in the Nerf car.
It's a good-looking car, I gotta say. I like the way
yeah.
it looks, the neon all around it. That's a good-looking car.
Yeah, so Steve out there looking very well right now. He's able to hold off the charge. Mike Matesi's going to see if he can't jump down. What I'm starting to see now, kind of what I saw at Las Vegas this past a couple of days ago. You can catch a guy, you can get to his door, but it's very hard to pass after a while. A lot of the times out here I'm seeing so far, they're so close. I mean, they're within hundredths of a second. And you know and I know, when you look at hundredths, in order to make a pass and kind of blow by a guy, you need to be making tenths on him, not hundreds. Hundreds will get you to his bumper, maybe get you to his door, but getting around him, you're going to need just that extra oomph.
You're exactly right. And these K&N cars especially, in order to make a pass, it's one thing to get up to someone's bumper, to be fast enough to catch someone, but to be fast enough to pass them is a whole different ballgame. We see E.J. O'Rourke, he's been just sitting there about 3 to 4.5 tenths back, bouncing back and forth depending on the runs he gets in the draft and so on Anthony DeBarro, our leader. But you just can't, he's not going to be able to get up and pass him. With these, you have to get just a big run going. We see Brian Macklin goes to the inside of Steve Gottschalk. Tommy Ryan is going to try and follow. Those are the big runs you got to get. But you got, like you said, you got to be a tenth faster than the guy, not 100.
Yeah, and there you go. You just see, actually, Brian made a very good move there to the inside and was actually able to get the momentum. That's another thing, though. I mean, if the Highline car does not get that run coming off and just messes up just a little bit, the momentum on the bottom could carry him. There's just so many factors that play into it here, not just, the times, because, we're watching the top two guys. Anthony DeBarro is pulling away. His last lap time was a 32.822. But it was only to a 32.926, so he is making up some pretty good distance there on EJ as the run goes on. Now, right now, we're on a pretty good long green flag run, and I'm not quite sure. If I had to guess, pit stops, I'm going to say maybe about 35, 40.
That sounds about right to me, but over the course of this run, they've actually lost about 4 tenths off their best laps and off their average lap, about 3 tenths per lap. So if someone were to come in and pit right now, they're going to be 3 tenths quicker than the leaders. I don't think we're going to see any major short pitting like 20 laps early, but maybe 2 or 3 laps early, and you carry the advantage, and you'll be a lot quicker for those 2 or 3 laps. So the strategy could come into play if we remain green here. With everyone getting so spaced out, it could be a long green flag race. I hope to see that.
Yeah, and like I said, this past Monday, they put on a clinic here at the Trans Service Cup Series for the Sim500, those Cup cars. They was at Las Vegas, green flag, all in all. Now, last week, Darlington, I know a lot of these guys probably want to just wash that one from their memory. Because, and again, I'm going to just chalk it up to track, car, tire. It's a bad combination there altogether. It was just one of those races where, hey, a lot of stuff happened, and they call it too tough to tame for a reason. But you can see, coming to this track, now we're already on a big run. I don't want to jinx it, because obviously we say big run, we get to the end, and some of these guys, well, they push the envelope a little bit.
Oh, a little bit of pushing the envelope, but yeah, we will see how these guys choose to proceed as that lead for Anthony DeBarro is really starting to grow, and EJ O'Rourke isn't facing much pressure from behind. It seems like Anthony DeBarro has just kicked on the afterburners and is pulling away by about a tenth and a half a lap.
And that's just how it's going to be. I'm still watching this backpack here. Jeff Ryan around about 25th, 26th spot. They're still duking it out back there in the back. I tell you, those guys just have not gave up on each other because, again, up front, Anthony DeBarro, he's got the control of this one. E.J. O'Rourke's running there in second. Brian Macklin moved to third. Chad Coleman fourth. And Steve Goschalk in fifth. Most of those running about single file up there. And these guys in this back here, they definitely are. They're swapping some positions back and forth.
Nobody likes to give up a spot, you know. I think in this league especially, people are always running so hard. Nobody's easy to pass in this league, which is good. It leads to some very hard, intense racing. These guys have learned how to run around each other, keep the racing clean, and we see awesome green flag runs like this where we've gone 25 laps green now, and everyone's been racing each other hard but respectfully. That's awesome stuff to see.
And we started, 32 cars started. 32 are still running here tonight. Homestead, Miami for the Nemesis Lab K&N Series, presented by the Sim500. A good one so far as these guys, man, are definitely duking it out. Watching Shane Ewing back here battling along. It looks like would be with Sean Castro back here as he makes that pass on him. These guys, multiple grooves too, I'm noticing there, Jeff. Some guys are going kind of high, some are sort of middle, some kind of going low.
I think it's more dependent on the run these guys are getting. You know, if you get a run to the inside, you take it. Sometimes you can even make a run on the outside work. Now that these tires are worn in, they're 27 laps old, you can start making some moves happen. We saw Brian Macklin get around E.J. O'Rourke. It's looking like Chad Coleman is going to carry some speed. I wonder if E.J. just didn't burn up his tires, expecting a caution at this point, and now he's sort of just holding on. He's going to ride around.
And when we go back to it before, I mean, now we're starting to see the guys that are better on a long run and know how to save tires. Not sure on EJ, his game plan out here. Obviously, Anthony's got that thing on rails. Brian Macklin looks like he's got a very good long green flag car, so he's hoping this thing will stay green for a long time. And towards the end of the race, doesn't get into a lot of cautions, as opposed to maybe somebody. Let's just say like EJ. He probably would be like, you know what, I wouldn't mind maybe one or two at the end of the race. That would put me in some short runs and I can just kind of hammer down on it.
Exactly, and I think if I'm E.J. O'Rourke, I'm going to think about short pitting. Whatever the fuel window is, let's call it 40 laps, maybe pit on lap 37. Push it a little bit, and those 3 laps where you're quicker, well, that's 0.9 seconds you're going to make up. 0.3 a lap on brand new tires, that's 0.9 seconds. That's a good chunk of his lead. That's over half of it. Actually, going back and looking at it, they're about 0.6 off the pace now. So 3 laps of that, he will be ahead of Anthony DeBarro. Now, DeBarro would have the advantage on the long run because he would those last 3 laps where he would be faster than EJ. But, it's just those things where you start thinking strategy. We're 30 laps into the run now. You got to start thinking about how you're going to approach this race because this, we're seeing that it's going to be green. We're seeing some really clean racing. We're hoping that cautions won't breed cautions, should there be any. You got to start thinking ahead on how you're going to win it. We may only have 80 laps to go, and that sounds like a lot, but at the same time, that's when races are decided.
And that's what I'm looking at here. Chad Coleman was able to make the pass up to 5th place. Timothy Johnson's hanging on to 4th. Steve Goschalk there in the 6th. So those guys kind of swapping positions back and forth a little bit. You already see Timothy right there moving up. He's gone up to the tailgate, or back bumper, there, of EJ. Good battle here. And hey, another guy, man, having a good night. He's up to 17th right now. It's Gael Brooks. He kind of, he started in the top 10 there. Kind of falling off the pace a little bit, but he's able to maintain so far.
Someone we don't talk about too often, the 18 of Mark Arthur from 20th all the way up to 12th. He's gained 8 spots. That doesn't sound like much, but at a track like this where passing is awfully difficult, that is very impressive. We see, what do we got down here? We see 21st to 14th, Richard Beasley. There's a lot of guys moving up through the field. Randy Yoakum, 31st to 22nd of 9 spots. Just, it's hard to make passes here. Randy's running back in 22nd position, as I just mentioned, but you just got to go out there, you click down these lap times, and you can start gaining positions.
And you're right, and that's the thing that you look, a lot of these guys, you know, they get marred back in traffic. And in a track like this, you're really not going to see anybody come from mid-pack and just come blowing through the field. It's just so close here. But you will see some guys, like you say, make some moves as a long run. They need the long run to make the moves. If this was kind of a, you know, unfortunately, if we had a lot of cautions and it was a kind of a stop-and-go type of thing, it would be very hard if you were marred back in traffic. I would say you'd have to do like a pit strategy in order to get up front. Then track position would be, I'm going to say it's important now, but it would really, really be important then. As opposed to now, you can make those grounds up, you know, as long as you get that long green flag run.
It's going to be a strategy game now. These guys actually usually end up pitting under caution in this league, and in most leagues, most races, all the pitting is done under caution. But now that they're working and doing stuff under green flag, they have to be conscious of that and change their strategy and adapt to it. Another thing to keep in mind, entering pit road here, you can't pull down off of turn 4 and just go in like normal. You have to hit the pit entrance and go around on the flat area under turns 3 and 4. You have to use that access road, same thing coming off in turns 1 and 2. And it's very difficult to do. These cars aren't built to drive on the flat ground, especially with worn tires. It's not an easy task to get onto pit road here at Homestead, Miami. That's going to be something to watch as well. Someone could go off, get into the grass. We could see penalties for unsafe pit entrance or pit exit. If someone forgets that they have to hit pit road that way, that's a huge penalty, and they have to pit again under green.
Call it all the time, week in and week out. I say mental mistakes, and you just touched on it right there. Pit road is probably the number one area that you can make a mistake. I mean, other areas is obviously not hitting your marks, braking points, accelerating points on the track, but pit road, you just talked about it there. And here it's unique. Bristol probably comes to mind as another one. It's a very, very unique the way you have to get in and off pit road. But you're right, they have to go on that access road on and off.
Anthony
if they
DeBarro
miss it
and Brian Macklin just pulled in off turn 4.
Yeah,
they
they're all
didn't
on
use
pit
the
road.
access.
Pit road here, yeah. But we got a lot of pit stops happening. So I said about lap 35, and they're about lap 37. So I'm going to say that, you know, sometimes we get fooled on the first pit stop here. I've actually gotten fooled before, and, you know, they come in, let's say they're coming in, like, say, right now, lap 37. I've actually gotten fooled, and they actually can go to, like, 40, maybe 42. They're just kind of short pitting this first one.
Right, a bit of short pitting going on. I'm wondering if we might have been incorrect about having to use that access road in 3 and 4. I know that when I've run it in iRacing and official races that I have been penalized for coming straight off of turn 4 and hitting the pits. I could be wrong about calling that, and if so,
I've always thought it was that
apologize,
way.
but yeah, I did as well, but they came in off of turn 4, so if Anthony DeBarro and Brian Macklin have to hit pit road again and are black flagged, we're going to know. But otherwise, we're seeing guys hit pit road, EJ O'Rourke, right off of turn 4, so maybe we missed something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it could have been a rule change that we just don't know about here on the iRacing side of things. I was always under the assumption there, folks, and what we were talking about earlier was the on and off pit road, and maybe somebody out in the chat can help us out on that, because I'm like Jeff. I was always under the assumption that you had to go on the off road or the onto the on road there, you know, to head into the pits, but evidently not. Hey, and that's fine. That helps these guys out a tremendous amount.
Right. We don't see Anthony DeBarro coming in to serve a penalty, Brian Macklin, or any of the other guys. I haven't heard anything about it in the driver's chat, so maybe you don't have to do that. Apparently, you don't have to do that. Maybe it's something with only under caution. I'm not sure on that, so maybe someone in the chat can clear that up for us. But Anthony DeBarro here, they ended up short pitting alongside Brian Macklin. Nick Silver is currently scored as the leader, but I believe he just hit pit road. So it's we're cycling through these pit stops here. We'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, Patrick Colby takes over the top spot for the moment. Like you said, everybody's kind of cycling through. He's the last one there. In order to make his pit stop, it's going to cycle back to Anthony DeBarro. The one thing that green flag stops do on the track is it separates the field quite a bit. Brian Macklin back here, he does have Timothy Johnson there on his back bumper. Those two are kind of, nose to tail for the moment. E.J. O'Rourke's falling off the pace, but yeah, this is where it's hard because trying to make up ground when it's always green is really, really tough, and going to have some pit strategy, I think, at the end of it.
Right, we saw Anthony DeBarro pull away by about 6/10 since the pit stop. He had a lead of about 1.5 seconds. It's now up to about 2.2, so call it 7/10 that he pulled away from Brian Macklin. Whether that was purely pit stop or he's pulling away on track, now putting down faster lap times, that's to be determined how much his lead increases here. But currently, Anthony DeBarro with a 2.2 second lead over second place Brian Macklin, and he's got Timothy Johnson right on his back bumper.
Absolutely, man. Timothy's right there watching the battle also for back in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th place spot here, because all those guys, they came out of the pits and they're all nose to tail right there. As actually Chad Coleman made the pass on E.J. O'Rourke, Mike Matessi's there, along with Tommy Ryan, Steve Goschalk and company. So all those guys kind of, in the mix a little bit, nose to tail, kind of having a good race there.
Like we said earlier, nobody here is really easy to pass. And I don't see anybody really roll over and just give away positions because nobody here races like that. Everybody races for every spot, and that's why we see such great racing week in and week out. E.J. O'Rourke is trying to block moves by Mike Montesi, and I think everyone's just going to try and stay in line, cruise around here. We're over a third of the way through this race. We're coming up to lap 44 soon, and these guys are now starting to figure out where they can run, how the car reacts over a full green flag run now that we've had one, and just how they're going to work their way up to the front here and get the best finish they possibly can.
Yeah, they've had enough time now to kind of figure it out. A huge, long green flag run to see what their car's going to do. At this point, though, if the way the race is going, you really still don't want to push the car to the limit. You still got a pretty good ways to go. We're at lap 44, 110, but we're not quite halfway yet. So I still think it's early to try to push the machine. If you wanted to push it now to see what it would do, okay, but I think it would be early because the way the race is going, it looks like it's going in a green flag fashion, so kind of just sit and ride for the moment.
That's sort of what you got to do. Speaking of sitting and riding and nobody really giving up any position, the man we call Smiley, Scott Simley, is actually out in front of Anthony DeBarro. He I won't say blocked a run Anthony had, but Anthony didn't get around him, and he's sort of stuck behind now. He's actually losing ground to the 30 car of Brian Macklin. I'm not sure if it's because he's stuck behind that 12 as the caution comes out.
Caution out for the first time tonight here. I tell you, but that one's on here. Pop up yet? Back.
I'm looking around. I'm not seeing anything, but that is a big break for the number 12 car. He's going to remain on the lead lap without having to use up a lucky dog.
I know we don't have any stages. I made a mistake the other day in one of my races. I forgot all about our stages. So I know we don't have stage cautions here in this league. Because the other day I was looking for a caution, and it just out of the blue came out, and I was like, I don't know what the caution was on. Then I was like, you know what? Go ahead, shoot me. They have a stage caution, but not one here, so I'm not sure. Somebody could have probably just went off track, spun real quick, and that's why we didn't see it. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe somebody just spun and kind of spun it around and got going real quick. Sometimes I've had them happen like that before.
Caught us off guard, but everyone comes down pit road. They actually dove right off turn 4, so I guess that access road is no longer a thing here on iRacing. I'm not sure. But I did check in. I did check in with the 36 car, Steve Abacwa. It was not him. The peeps are perfectly okay as we see Steve Gottschalk get off early. And oh my goodness, the 21 car has made Nicholas Cohan. If anyone's going to go for 2 tires, it's going to be him. He comes out
Did you see Brian Macklin on pit road? He just spun the car out on pit road and had to back up off of pit road to get it turned back around.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I did. I was watching it there live, and Brian Macklin, who obviously came in second here, but spun the car around while coming out of his pit box. I mean, it looped all the way around, and he just had to throw it in reverse and back up out of pit road and then swing it back around. But he's going to lose a ton of positions.
Yeah, I'm going back and looking at it again. Someone's throwing snowballs at my window, so I'm just hearing thuds and everything, so I didn't get a chance to see Brian Macklin go around.
Man, it was wild.
I may have to go find someone because they're throwing snowballs at my apartment window.
Hey, there you go. Hey, got a snowball fight going on.
Yeah, I'm involved. My window is covered in snow now.
There you go. Well, at least you're getting snow, man. You need to bring some of that stuff down here where I'm at.
Yeah, we got about an inch or so. I'm gonna have to go clean my car off at some point. I'm out in the, if anyone watching is in Indiana, then I'm out at Purdue University, so we got a dusting of snow, and everyone's excited for the basketball game tomorrow where we're gonna stomp IU, so any Purdue fans out there, just know we're gonna be out there. We're gonna stomp IU.
I don't watch much basketball per se. I'm a really football person, but buddy of mine, obviously I'm in North Carolina, so you can already tell. And where I'm at is really a lot of the ACC teams. We've got Wake, Duke, UNC, State, Clemson, all them teams around where I'm at. Yeah, there you go. A lot of those.
Oh man.
Yeah, heavy hitters.
I grew up in Massachusetts actually, and then wound up out here. I said, you know what I really love? Corn. As another snowball hits the booth.
Oh, man.
Hang on, I'm gonna go handle this. I'm stepping out of the booth. I'm putting on the boxing gloves. I'm handling this.
All right, well, we're getting set to go back to green flag here. He handles his snow business. We're going to go back racing here at Homestead. Under caution for the first time tonight. We went 40-some laps, man. Green flag. Not 100% sure. Apologize on what maybe the caution was. Could have been just somebody spun real quick off the track and got, spun back around. But either way, lap 49 here. When they cross the line, it'll be lap 50. Man out front, Nick Cohan. Steve Goschalk there in second. Anthony Navarro, who's been up front most of the night, starts in third. Timothy Johnson in fourth. Chad Coleman up to fifth. Here we go. We're getting set to go green. How you doing out there, John? Snowball fight, yeah. That's right. He's going to go out there and make some snow cream. Or it's over with. How you doing tonight there, John? How's everybody else doing out there? I want to appreciate everybody tuning in. As we're getting set here, green flag. Pace cars in. We're going back. Green flag racing. We're back at it here at Homestead. Good start by Nick Cohan there, but Steve Goschalk did not get the run he wanted. He's going to have to fly down on the inside there, Timothy Johnson, to see if he can hold him off. EJ's trying everything he can. Remember, these restarts are chaotic. We got a car spinning in the back. What a save. What a save. That actually was Matt Lacrosse. Man, they're three wide in the back of the field, though. But that car was totally sideways back there, folks. And they are still beating and hammering on each other back there in the back of the pack. Three wide back there. I told you, these restarts, they're crazy here at Homestead. Any of the other tracks, too, they're kind of crazy here, but everybody's safe. Up front, they're still single file set for Timothy Johnson. He's trying to work over Steve Goschalk for the moment. Chad Coleman's right there behind him. He's going to pull up on him. Is EJ going to take the spot? Nope, not going to be able to get it.
I wouldn't say everyone's safe. As an update, I lost the snowball fight. My screen on my window is broken, and there's snow all over my apartment.
Man, well, hey, look, get some snow cream out of that thing at least.
My neighbors are now here with the broken screen. It seems like we've hit single file action. Yeah, I've fixed the screen, but my apartment is covered in snow. My bag is covered in snow. It's truly a loss here tonight. So man, there will be a winner on track, but if there's a loser tonight, I think it's me.
That's all right. Look, having fun. That's what it is. Right now, Anthony Navarro's having a blast up there. He's going to try to take the lead from Nick Cohan. Remember, he's been a car on the rails most of the night.
He absolutely has been. Nick Cohan, though, on that two-tire stop. If anyone's going to go for 2 tires, it's going to be him, and he's making it work. That 21 car is riding the outside. He might be able to get a good run off, but Anthony DeBarro closes the door on him. That takes away the advantage of the outside line. That 27 car is back in the lead.
Yeah, and what that showed right there, and I think what Nick was trying to do, along with Steve Goschak taking 2 tires on that, was to see, I mean, obviously they wanted to make up ground. They thought that this thing was going to go another long green flag run, and it very well could. So if they can get back on cycle with everyone else pit-wise, everybody's going to have to make another pit stop. They're not going to be able to go the whole entire distance. So he needs the track position. He might fall off a little bit, but at the end, it actually might help him instead of being back like marred back in 20-some position.
You're absolutely right. Every driver faces adversity in a race. It's all about how they overcome it. It's going to take some interesting strategy, but it can always get done. As Steve Gottschalk is holding off the outside, E.J. O'Rourke tried to follow Chad Coleman down there on the bottom. They are getting awfully close, but Chad Coleman not able to make the pass. E.J. O'Rourke looking around on the outside now.
Yeah, EJ actually falls back to the 6th place spot. Chad Coleman takes that top spot there to 5th place on it. Tommy Ryan's right there all over the back bumper. And John out in the chat said, Jeff's sake, he hopes Purdue hammers.
I sure hope so as well. I'm going to be there at the game. So if anyone has watched a Purdue basketball game, you've probably seen a whole bunch of guys dressed up in like animal onesies, pajamas. If you've seen the Shark that's going absolutely crazy out there in the crowd for basketball, football, that's me. So I'm going to be all suited up for the game tomorrow. We're going to go out and beat IU. It's going to be great.
Y'all college kids, man, something else.
Hey, whatever works. Chicks dig the onesies. That's all I got to say. It's an awesome.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. I can't argue with that one. There you go. Absolutely. Man, what I tell you, bro. What good race though been happening here. Anthony DeBarro has been the man all night long. Nick Cohan there with his 2-tire stop. Like I said, I think it's going to benefit him on that 2-tire along with Steve Goschak because, well, we've seen all night long, even though, Timothy Johnson's looks like he's going to take a spot away from him, but the track position he's going to be able to maintain here. And after a while, those 4 tires will kind of level off, and we've seen it hard to pass at this place.
Absolutely, and I think that was 100% the right call for Nick Cohan. And anyone that took 2 tires, it's harder to drive the car. It's harder to do well here because those left sides are worn. But you got to just ride it out. It'll all even itself out after about 20 laps. You'll be running the same pace as those other guys. If you can just hold your own, stay in the top 5, that's a great call, and it gains a lot of track position.
Well, right now, Steve Goschak's going to see if he can't take the spot away. He's on the inside of it for the moment. Those 2 guys, like I said, the 2 that took the 2 tires. Timothy Johnson pulls up the 2nd place spot. Right behind him, Chad Cole is there along with him, and E.J. O'Rourke. But you see, Steve's going to try it, just can't make that pass.
And he's actually going to end up losing a spot maybe to Chad Coleman. He's now side by side with him. That outside line gets the advantage on the corner exit, especially with a bit of a draft from Nick Cohan. Chad Coleman might take that spot from Steve Gottschalk, as well as E.J. O'Rourke, Tommy Ryan, and the 7 car of Mike. Yeah, those guys could all just run right over this 91 if it doesn't go his way.
It does. I mean, because they're all packing up right there with EJ, Tommy, Mike, and all those, and they're on 4 tires. And I said the tires will neutralize after a while. They will, but still the 4 tires, they're going to hang on a lot longer than those 2, and you can already see it. The problem is it's so tough to pass here. Even with 4 tires, they're not just kind of catching them. At some tracks you catch and just blowing right by the guy. Here, it takes you a little bit to get around that guy, and you can see it. So even with 4 tires, it's tough to make it around those 2-tire guys.
You're exactly right. It's just a difficult track to pass at, and you can use that to your advantage if you're a guy that takes 2 tires. E.J. O'Rourke down there on the bottom going to try and make the pass over Nick Cohan as well. Chad Coleman made it work, but running by him on the bottom, Tommy Ryan is going to try and follow. But Nick Cohan's doing exactly what he needs to do. Just run his race, hold as many spots as he can, and just run his line.
And I think it'll pay off here as the longer it goes. He understands, yes, he's going to drop some spots, but this obviously he's not going to drop as many as he could, unless he just obviously makes a huge mistake here on the track. But I got a feeling it's eventually just going to kind of even out for him here, and the position he gains would probably be a lot better than the positions that or he would be in out, if he would have just took 4 tires and been marred back in traffic. So it's a good kind of experiment to see here this time of the track. Right now, though, everybody's kind of single file, Anthony out front. And if we look, you can just see everybody's nose to tail right now.
Like we saw towards the beginning of the race, about 10 laps into a run, these guys just get single file. You see on occasion some passes, some people jumping out of line to make moves on other people. But Nick Cohan has fallen all the way back to 7. Looks like Timothy Johnson there is moving up and catching on Anthony DeBarro a little bit, but we saw it earlier. It's one thing to catch someone, it's something else completely to pass them. But I do want to say Brian Macklin has worked his way all the way back up to 11th. That's some big movement up there to try and get a bunch of spots, and he's got in front of him Dwayne Vincent, Nick Silver, and Steve Gottschalk right behind Nick Cohan, and he can make some moves here, and he is one of the fastest cars.
Well, he was fast there, just that huge mishap, an unfortunate incident on pit road, spinning the car around. Luckily, didn't get any damage, didn't hurt anything, and the car's relatively clean. If it goes green, and I think this is what he needs, he definitely doesn't at this point probably need any cautions, because that'll make it harder to get up there because everybody get on new tires and make it very hard to pass. Long green flag runs, he can pick them off one by one. He's still got a slew of them there as he's trying to work over Nick Silver, but he has cracked the top 10, like you said.
That's really impressive to work his way up through the field like that. He's making passes. He's around the 15 now, and it looks like he's faster than the 91 and the 21. So, like he said, he's just got to hope for green flag here. I think that's his best bet. If I'm him, I'm going to short pit as soon as my fuel window opens, and I know I can make it to the end plus a couple extra laps. That's when I'm going to hit pit road, get 4 fresh tires, and go out there and race.
Well, even though he's marred back there, he's one of the fastest machines, and he can just see it, and he's taking them on one by one. Oh, right there, Steve Gottschalk. He's going to see if he can't go around Nick Cohan. Now, those two have been battling the last couple times. This is what Brian doesn't want to see. He'd be like, look, guys, maybe y'all need to settle it out. Or he's going to have to take a chance to take it 3 wide. Then there's where he can get into trouble.
Right, you have to be in a hurry, but at the same time, you got to be patient. And it's a bit of an oxymoron, but you have to be as quick as you can while being as safe as you can. To finish first, you must first finish, as they say. So he's got, right now, a run on the bottom over Steve Gottschalk. He's going to see if he can't get around him, get up to 8th position, and then start working on that 7 car and sitting in 7th, Mike Montesi.
Yeah, and you just saw right there, Steve was able to get around Nick, and he instantly moved up the track there, which brought Brian around both of those machines, and I got a feeling from this point on he'll probably pull away from him. Steve trying to look to the inside, but the next one he's going to work on is Mike Montesi. My thing is, though, out front, Anthony DeBarro still fast and holding this down. Timothy Johnson's right there along with him. Their times with each other, I mean, they're just within a couple hundreds of each other.
Right, you're exactly right. It seems like Anthony DeBarro is starting over the past 2 or 3 laps to pull away from Timothy a bit, but it's an ebb and a flow. Sometimes he loses ground, sometimes he gains ground. So you got to just take it with a grain of salt. We saw right around now is when Anthony DeBarro started pulling away from 2nd place, really extending his lead. So this is probably where he's best in a run, where he can just open it up, as we are now on lap 70 of 110.
There you go right now, and that's a pass halfway. You're right, lap 70 of 110. At this point here, though, they could make it the entire distance if they pit. So from here on, I'm going to say look for some pits. Yeah, look for some pit stops from here on. I mean, it would be stretching it, but I'm going to say probably within the next 5 to 10 laps, you're probably going to start seeing some guys come on pit road.
I would expect to see some people short pit, and that's just a strategy. And frankly, I agree with that. I think that's the right call to make if you're Brian Macklin, and now you're driving hard, you're fighting through traffic. maybe you short pit, you get fresher tires out there, and you can try and run these guys ahead of you down. But he's now caught that back bumper of the 7 car, and pretty much once he gets past him, he can just click his way through and get up in front of E.J. O'Rourke, and that'll put him in 3rd place.
Yes, he can, and that would be the deal right there. Now, a guy like Steve Goschalk, maybe a guy like Nick Cohan, who took the 2 tires, short pitting here within the next 4 or 5 laps probably would be a good advantage on their end. It might make up some ground. The only thing that I obviously would mess that up, 2 things, obviously caution and if the leader the next lap after them pitted. But if the leader actually stayed out, let's say, an additional 5 or 6 laps, it might actually help those guys when those guys do come in the pit, because you've got to base this here. When you make a last pit stop, some of these guys like to spread it out as far as they can, but you also got to have enough time to run down if you lose positions or if you lose time on a guy in front of you. We've seen it. Nobody is coming through the field just by me. Even Brian Macklin's not coming through this field like, gangbusters. It's taken him a while to come through here. So he's got to understand he's still going to have enough time and enough laps left to get it done.
You're exactly right. It is a tall order to make many passes here. It's amazing how well Brian Macklin has done. It's really blown me away. I think he's going to be able to get up to 3rd pretty easily, and I would ride up there for as long as you can, and then maybe pit a couple laps early. Once you have enough fuel to make it to the end, you're clear to make your pit stop, and you can really start trying to gain on these leaders. Because at the end of the day, Brian Macklin is one of the fastest cars on track, if not the fastest car on track. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on, and with a little bit of strategy here, he plays his cards right, he could still win this race after a big mistake like we saw.
Oh, no doubt about it. Definitely got a fast machine, and if the strategy of the pit stops plays right into his hands, I mean, he's got to keep an eye on the leader. I think that's the key. Once that leader makes a pit stop, if he does not short pit the leader, then he needs to make one either with him or the next lap right behind him. Doesn't need to stay out there too long because start losing way too much ground. But right now he's working over the back end where he's actually trying to close in on Tommy Ryan. We'll see what he does here later on the run. Anthony DeBarro still the man out front. And if you look at the laps, at this point they would be, 34? And that puts them well within that window.
The window is now open. I imagine we're going to see people pitting. I would probably go in around lap 81 to 85 would be my pit window if it were my choice, but we'll see what these drivers think. These drivers think they're the ones behind the wheel, so we'll see what decision they decide to come up with here. As crossing the line, Brian Macklin is all the way up to 5th. He's losing a little bit of ground to the leader, so he's not as fast as Anthony DeBarro, but he's working through traffic and trying to get up to 3rd. He's still, like I said before, a force to be reckoned with, as Anthony DeBarro is pulling away from the rest of the field.
Yes, he is, and right now Steve Goschalk's one of the first ones on pit road amongst a couple others there. Remember, Steve took 2 tires earlier on, so he's taking that short pit here to see if he can't make up a little bit of ground. Obviously, it could pay off if he can get out front there. But with the lead that Anthony DeBarro has, and here comes Brian Macklin on the inside of Tommy Ryan, he's ran him down. Now he's going to see if he can't take that spot away from E.J. O'Rourke.
I still can't believe that run through the field. A major mistake like that on pit road where you got the car spun around and he's all the way back up to 4th, about to be fighting for 3rd. That's really something else. You don't see that too often in any racing, so congratulations to him. Regardless of what happens, that is a Herculean run through the field.
That's a bad fast, and he's coming on pit road here, so he's going to take the short pit route. He's figured he's made enough positions up, caught up to the front, and this might be a good move because it's going to force the hand of Anthony DeBarro. How long does he stay out? I mean, we've got several other drivers out there. Nick Cohan has made his pit stops, but this right here now kind of forces the hand of Anthony. How long does he stay out? He knows Brian was coming through that field.
If I'm Anthony DeBarro, the best thing that you can do right now to throw away the 30 strategy and beat him is to pit now. Pit this lap as soon as you see him go in. Pit as soon as you can. Take away his advantage of fresh tires. You know you're faster than everyone else out there in the field. The one car you have to worry about is the 30. If you can take away his advantage by pitting right after him, that would be huge, and that could win him the race.
And here's another thing to throw into the mix. Brian Macklin took 2 tires. That is actually going to be huge as far as track positions, because here's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Here comes our leader, Anthony DeBarro. I think he's seen enough, and he came in hot, almost clipped the barrel coming in there.
Was he speeding? That's the question.
I don't know if I mean, if he got it woed down, the biggest thing, boy, that was a scare, because he almost hit the front side of those barrels coming in to pit road. But what I was going to say, though, here, those 2 tire stops by Brian Macklin, that gives him even more position on the track. And right now, he's coming into turn 3. I'm going to depend on what Anthony does. Does he take 2 tires? And actually,
he's
going to take 4. So Brian should be able to pass him as he's coming out of turn 4 right now, coming across pit road. Yeah, it's going to be. Remember, I talked earlier there, Jeff, about do you have enough time to run him down? And I think that's what Brian is playing. He's playing the game of, do I have enough time? Now, you did see Anthony get out front of Brian. So now it's going to be a battle, 4 tires versus 2.
The fact that Anthony DeBarro got out in front of Brian Macklin, that is huge. That is a big hit. Brian needed to be in front of him, and for that to not happen there, for Anthony to be out in front of him now, that is huge.
Yeah, the only thing that might stop it here would be actually a caution. So we're going to see what Brian has. Remember, he had a very fast car. Felt like it was a little bit. The only reason I would say to put 2 tires is to free it up just a little bit if you thought it was tight. Timothy Johnson, though, remember, he pitted 1 lap before Anthony did, and he just had an exceptional pit stop there on and off pit road, because he beat both of those guys back on the track, and he pitted a lap or a couple laps after them.
I think it also helped that he got into pit road so aggressively. I mean, he was right at 50 miles an hour that he finally got it slowed down enough right at the entrance of pit road. He could not have attacked that entry any harder than he did, and that helped him a ton.
Well, the total pit stop time from the time on pit road, your stop, and the time off, he had a 42.5 to Timothy Johnson's time of a 43.32. Now, Brian Macklin's obviously is going to be less because he took 2 tires, but it was a 40.42. So, again, there you go. He got on and off pit road. I mean, his pit stop was about average with everybody else in the 14-some second mark. But on and off pit road was so good, that's where he made up a lot of that time.
That's phenomenal. That is just a driver that hits their marks and does everything right, and it works out well for him.
Well, a person we haven't talked about here, though, is EJ. He is actually the leader right now. Anthony is there, and EJ's not going to be so easy to get around. But as I say that, here comes Anthony on the inside. What Timothy would love to see is those 2 guys get up there and just lean on each other, and that's what we're seeing.
A big run there on the bottom for DeBarro as he clears E.J. O'Rourke off the corner. That's exactly what he needed to do. E.J. O'Rourke might stick his nose in down there, but DeBarro just has the speed. I think he's going to be safe in pulling away here. Now he just needs to go to work for these last 25 laps.
Yeah, my other thing is Sean Castro still out front with Mark Arthur. At some point, I don't know if they can make it the entire way, but at some point, you've got to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. They're either doing one or 2 things. They're going to take this thing the whole entire distance, or they're praying for a caution at this point. You can see Sean. Well, never mind. Here he comes on pit road. That throws that out there.
Don't you hate it?
I know, and here comes Mark too. So everything I just said, forget about what I just. But I saw what they were doing. They were kind of probably hoping for a caution to fly, and that would have put them in, beautiful position there, because they had such a huge lead. And then if they even thought they could have made it the entire distance, why not stay out? Because at this point, they're not going to make up the ground.
That's right, and it was a gamble call. I think they were hoping for a caution in those couple laps between when everyone else pit and when they would finally have to pit. But gosh, isn't that the worst thing when you're talking about something as an announcer? You're like, oh, maybe these guys are doing this, and then it just absolutely goes out the window in real time. You
just got to throw the papers out. Just tearing them up. So forget about what we was talking about.
Yep, you just rip it right in half. It's the worst thing in the world. But Nicholas Cohan, we saw he made a 2-tire stop earlier, has gained 20 spots.
Yep.
That is amazing. From 25th all the way up to 5th. Another big mover, Matt Lacrosse, 28th all the way up to 12th.
Amazing. And you just mentioned Nick, and I was just actually watching him. That's a phenomenal run. That 2-tire stop earlier on, and he actually took another 2-tire stop, so that's actually really helping him out there. Taking another gamble here. Why not? You only got, 20 to go here tonight. So, you're probably not going to win the race, but to come out of here, instead of maybe finishing 20-some position, he's probably going to maybe come out of here with a top 5 or top 10. Well, right now, top 5.
Maybe so. We'll have to see how it all pans out. This is some great racing here, though. Keeping it green. This is some awesome stuff, I must say.
Yeah, one caution for the night so far, and it has been green and clean most of this race here, and been dominated by that man out front, Anthony DeBarro. Put it on pole. He's led most of it here tonight with Timothy Johnson there in second. E.J. O'Rourke hanging on to the third place. Brian Macklin back in fourth, and round out the top 5, Nick Cohan. But Homestead, Miami here for the Nemesis Lab K&N Series presented by the Sim500. Into the closing laps here. We're at lap 91 of 110, so we've got about 19 to go.
You are exactly right, and this kind of racing right here is Anthony's bread and butter. Just go out there, turn laps. As long as it stays green, he's shown he is the fastest car on the long run. Brian Macklin is about 2 seconds back. He's in 4th place now. He's right behind E.J. O'Rourke by about 0.8 seconds, but if it stays green, we've seen Anthony DeBarro just pull away from the field over these long runs, and with, 19 laps to go, that's exactly what he's planning on doing if the race stays green.
And another thing, he's got clean air out there just kind of racing his own race. Yeah, you can see Timothy Johnson in his rearview mirror. Does not want to make a mistake, but doesn't want to push that car too much. As I know Timothy's probably going to try to push it here as a closing laps to see if he can't maybe close up on the bumper there, make Anthony make a mistake. But all night long, he's just been on rails. He's got a clean track, clean air, and that's what you want as a driver.
That's exactly what you want as a driver. If I had to choose where I wanted to be running, it would be first place with everyone behind me. That is exactly where you want to be, and that's where Anthony DeBarro's been all night. He started on the pole, and he's just been running out front this entire race. These long green flag runs have shown that over the long run, he is the best.
And I'm looking at the lap times there. You saw DeBarro ran a 680 to a 674. So, yeah, Timothy might be making ground, but at that rate, that's just not enough. We've talked about it all night long. You're going to need some substantial time here. It might be enough for him to get to the back bumper, but at that speed, that would definitely not be enough to make it around Anthony.
Well, I'm going to start with about 10 laps to go is usually when I break out the calculator, break out the math, and start analyzing all these laps, telling you what he needs to run in order to catch the leader, if he's hitting his marks, gaining enough time, and, that's up to get up to the bumper, what he needs to do to get to the bumper. Now with 16 laps to go here, and about 0.4 seconds back, 3 car lengths, he's not even really showing the speed to catch Anthony DeBarro, let alone get past him.
That's what I'm saying. As one lap, it looks like one of them's faster. The other lap it is right there as they come across the line right there. That time Timothy was a touch faster than DeBarro, but it's only by hundreds. I mean, it's not tenths or anything, which is what he really needs to get to that bumper there. There's a solid, what looks about a car length and a half between them, maybe 2 car lengths there on them. So, time's winding out, running out on him here at Homestead.
When you're out there driving, for anyone watching that doesn't actively race and they're not behind the wheel often, making up 100th on someone is getting in the gas a little bit earlier than them. You just happen to get on the gas a little bit before them. You get a little bit lower than them. Making up a 10th is you have a better line. You've saved your tires more. You're doing something consistently better. But when you make up hundredths, that's just the small, tiny, tiny details that vary from lap to lap. I mean, you can run a .34 and a .36 and then go and run a .32. You're just varying by hundredths of a second, and that's just differences per lap. You know, one lap is going to be better than another, just that's the way it is. Otherwise, every single lap you run would be identical, and it would be a perfectly linear slope if you were to graph it. But that's not what you see. So to make or lose a 10th, that's where the big difference is. And when we're not seeing someone gaining or losing a 10th, that sort of shows these cars are evening out, and these guys are not really making up any ground.
And it also just a testament to the driving and the skill. I mean, both of these guys are pretty much just dead even out here, have probably the best lines that they possibly can run, and what they're doing is almost identical. So, you know, you're right. I mean, everything there is just from what you're seeing with these two drivers, they're equally matched at this point. Neither one of them, I would say, is phenomenal over the other one right now.
I would agree with you. Both of them are pulling away from the field by quite a bit, quite a lot. They're now 4 seconds ahead of E.J. O'Rourke, who is right in front of Brian Macklin. Brian Macklin is right up on his back bumper, battling for third place. But we've seen it. He's sitting about 4/10 back. In order to catch the leader, Timothy Johnson needs to run about 400ths a lap quicker every single lap. Like we said, we've seen them coming up. You know, he might gain a couple hundredths and then he loses a couple hundredths. Consistently, every single lap from here on out, he needs to gain 4.5 hundredths of a second per lap to even get to the back bumper of Anthony DeBarro. I don't see that happening unless we see a major mistake by the 27.
And what I'm seeing right now, because I'm watching this battle here, though, with Brian Macklin and him, but to touch on that with Timothy Johnson, what I am seeing him, he's going to have to start running that car harder than what Anthony would have to do out front. Anthony just has to maintain what he's got. It's up to Timothy to run him down. Problem with doing that, and I've seen the last couple laps, is you start making mental mistakes. You overdrive the turn, you overdrive coming out. It's not a fault of the driver. It's not a fault of that. It's just the scenarios that he's put in. If you want to try to run that guy down in front of you, if you see that you're just not naturally catching him on what you're doing, sometimes you have to change what you're doing and maybe drive the car hard. Problem with doing that, a lot of times, the car just don't want to cooperate.
Not only are drivers physically athletes, but they also have this very tough mental game ahead of them. It's like chess at 200 miles an hour, you know, and you're playing against yourself just as much as you're playing against the other guy. Where you're out there racing, you have to not just be perfect, you have to be more perfect than the guy ahead of you. And that's not easy to do, as we see Brian Macklin gave up the inside there to Tommy Ryan. He's now going to make a run at E.J. O'Rourke. It's a three-way battle for third.
And there was contact there between Tommy Ryan and Brian Macklin as they came out of the turn. I mean, we are getting down to the closing laps here, but now E.J. O'Rourke sees Tommy Ryan there on the inside. Tommy might have a little bit fresher tires over him. Wow, it's a good side-by-side battle here.
Great side-by-side battle, and Brian Macklin can sort of sit back there licking his chops. He chooses which line he wants to run. He sees that Tommy Ryan now gets a good run. E.J. O'Rourke drifts up in the turn, and he's going to try and clear him. Brian Macklin does. They're going down the backstretch now. Oh, my goodness. Macklin might be able to get a run on Tommy Ryan here, thinks better of it, and he's just going to sit right at that back bumper. But DeBarro and Johnson are battling up there towards the front, and Timothy Johnson's losing a bit of time. He's over half a second back now. Now he needs to make up about a 10th a lap in order to even get to the back bumper. Anthony DeBarro needs over a 10th a lap. He's not making up enough ground to catch him.
I think it's just a product of he just overdrove the car. Now the tires are just, falling off the pace. He knew what he needed to do, and Anthony was just on rails up there. But, man, Brian's not giving up on Tommy Ryan here for that third place spot.
Oh, there's a caution. That changes everything.
Yes, it does, and unfortunately, the car that was involved...
Don't be the Peeps machine.
It's the Peeps machine.
Oh.
Steve, let's see what happened. Oh, contact between him and another machine, and then he slams the wall. Unfortunately, that's going to mess up the Peeps' day. But Steve, wow.
Oh, that's a
caution.
heartbreak.
And that actually should bring us to a green-white checker. I want to say that should. But you're right. This does change because do you pit or do you stay out?
If you're the leader, you are in trouble because they're going to do the opposite of what you do.
Right,
so he stays out and the rest of the field goes in.
Most of the field, yeah. I think
Nick Cohan stays out.
Nick Cohan stayed out. He's going to gamble it. Tommy Ryan stayed out. But Timothy Johnson, the first one to come on pit road. So we're going to have to see how many cars came in behind him. But Anthony stayed out. Tommy Ryan stayed out. Now, if you're the leader, I will say this. This is what you wanted right here. Green, white, checkered. You wanted some cars to stay out with you. Because if everybody came in behind you, you'd be a sitting duck. But what this is going to do for him is Timothy Johnson, when he does come out on pit road, even though he's going to have probably the freshest tires out there. Well, he only took 2 tires, but he's still going to have some of the freshest tires. Going to mar him back in traffic. He's not going to have enough time to get through that field.
He's going to be restarting 12th. There were 11 cars that stayed out there. Actually, might be 10 because I see the Peeps machine up there. He's waiting for that wave around, which he might not get. I don't think he's going to get one.
He shouldn't get it because he actually was the caution, so he's probably... Right. He'll have to eventually drop back. I'm going to say he's going to have to drop back into the field. But, I mean, here's probably the best scenario that you've got as a leader Anthony's had. He's had the best car all night long. I mean, I don't want to count out Tommy Ryan and him. But this is what he needed. He took a gamble to stay out. If everybody would have came in, man, that could have been disastrous for him. But he needed at least, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 machines to stay out there. He had a lot more than that. Because what that does now is there's no way Timothy Johnson can get to the front. I mean, you'd need a rocket ship to come through the field in the time that it's going to take to get through all those cars. And, I know somebody might sit out there and go, well, Joe, what do you mean? I mean, you never know. You're counting him out. I don't ever want to count a guy out, but he's got a well hole to dig himself out of. Timothy does.
And, I don't think he did anything wrong. I think he made the right call. It was just, there's really no right call to make there. It's tough.
And then I agree with you because that's what we just said. That's why I mentioned it before when that caution flew. Do you pit or don't? Because in these scenarios, it's a gamble, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it don't. Anthony DeBarro, because, hey, if he would have came into pits, look what would have happened to him too. I would have said the same thing about Anthony. If those guys would have stayed out in front of him and he would have started back in 9th, 10th place, no, he ain't going to win this race. Not on a green, white, checkered. If there was maybe 8 laps to go, 10 laps to go, all right, hey, they got enough time to come through that field. But with us going to be right on top of, it looks to be going to be, we about theoretically going to be a green, white, checkered. Only going to be about 2 laps here because when they cross the line, it's going to go green, and then the next time around should be white.
And then checkered.
I'm trying to look because we haven't flicked on the green, white, checkered. We're still at lap 109. So when they do cross the line, that actually would be the white flag. So it could be a green, white, then the next time around. So instead of being 3 laps, it only could be maybe 1. I could be wrong, but either way,
I believe it has been extended for a green, white, checkered.
Okay. Right,
it's
cool.
1 attempt, and it says up in the top left for me in my overlay that it's 111.
Right, good. All right, cool. I'm glad I'm not seeing it that. Like I said, I'm still seeing 109, so it might just be stuck there. And either way, we're back green, and Anthony does get the jump he needed. That's what he needs to get out front there, and he needs those 2 cars behind him to battle here.
That's exactly what he needed, and that's exactly what he would get. Kind of, sort of, Tommy Ryan with a great run on the outside. I think Nicholas Cohan is really struggling on taking 2 tires earlier, but it's a big clump from about 6th place on back. There's just no breaking through that wall. Anthony DeBarro needs one more clean lap here, and he'll have this win locked down.
Oh, man, Timothy Johnson threaded the needle, put that thing 3 wide, made a move right there with those tires. Got up to 6th place, but Tommy Ryan's going to clear the second. Samuel right there hanging on to 3rd place. Wow, hadn't really talked about him, but he's up to 3rd, holding off Nick Cohan. The white flag's out one more time. Here we go.
White flag is out there, entering turns 3 and 4. Looks like Samuel has got 3rd place locked down, but man, what a scrum in the back there. What a bold call to stay out, and he is awful lucky that many cars stayed out and joined him. Anthony DeBarro wins the race with Tommy Ryan and Samuel Baumgarten following him in 2nd and 3rd, respectively.
I got to give my hats off there to Samuel. What a call, what a pit strategy, what a way to come out here, because it got him a top 3. But again, now Timothy was able to make up some positions there. He was able to come home here tonight in 6th. Nick was able to come home here in 4th, but what a win by that man right there. Anthony DeBarro, hey, couldn't have painted it any better of a picture for him here tonight.
Truly phenomenal. The way he ran this race, it was absolutely incredible. He was just on rails the entire time. You really can't ask for anything more. A lot of green flag racing throughout the race. Everyone was running just really, really well.
Love it. Boy, I tell you what, Samuel's probably going to be a very happy guy here. He's just out of nowhere. So, staying out definitely paid off on his end. Huge coming here home tonight with the place finish. Here in the bring him up here and top here. We'll bring up the 3rd place man. Let's get a word with him.
Samuel, this is Jeff up here in the booth. You got me?
Oh, I got you, man.
Well, what a bold strategy call to stay out. You started this race in 12th. You were sort of running top 10, top 15 the entire race. What were you thinking? What did you expect to happen when you stayed out there towards the end of that run, knowing that it would be a green-white checkered?
Well, I stayed out on that long green flag run a little bit longer than everybody else, so I figured I had a little bit fresher tires. And when I saw there was only going to be a green-white checkered, I said, why not? Go for it. Got the, I got a little bit of rubber on these things, see what we can get out of it.
Well, it was certainly a call that worked out well for you. You came home 30, had a good battle going with the 21 as well. So who do you have to thank for getting you here for this fantastic 3rd place finish?
I got to thank Dr. Squatch Racing. They just brought me on as a full-time driver this season. So big shout out to those guys. Use Race 15, take 15% off your first order. And Brutal Business Entertainment, it's a record label locally around me. They've been sponsoring me ever since I got started on iRacing, so big shout out to those guys. And that's pretty much it, man.
Well, congratulations on a great 3rd place run here. I hope to talk to you more up in the booth. Again, congratulations on that fantastic run and on a bold strategy call to stay out there late.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a good night.
And one last question. Can you say your last name?
It's Baumgarten.
Yes! Okay, cool. Well, and I apologize because I know I butchered it several times out there tonight, so I will apologize on that.
You wouldn't be the only one, man. It's all good.
Hey, I tell you what, there you go, 3rd place man there, Samuel, man, happy guy, just brought on from the team. That's awesome, man, to show up for those guys. Well, hey, let's bring up the 2nd place man, Tommy Ryan. Let's get a word with him.
Vegas.
Vegas? What are you talking about Vegas for here, Tommy?
Sorry.
How you doing?
Me and the bar were down there just shooting it down there on pit wall, man, talking about last week.
Oh, man. Well, you had a fantastic run here. You were sitting top 5 most of the night, and then you stayed out at the end, and you had a great run. You've had some rough luck these past couple weeks. What changed your night for such a fantastic run?
Luck, man. I just been burned so many times running near the front, and a caution comes out, and you're just like, oh, I mean, everybody's got a pit, and everybody, a few of us go in, and about 10 stay out, and I get dumped, and it's not a good night. So I was like, I mean, I have to stay out. I mean, I think if we can get going, this new tire model, they seem to hook up a little better. off the get-go, and I knew the guys that probably maybe pitted and just took 2 tires was going to have a little bit of problem getting through the traffic, getting through the other guys behind us who also didn't pit, and figured their tires probably wouldn't come in until probably around turn 3 over there. But me and DeBarro, we were gone, so I was like, this is going to work out.
Well, and work out it did from 6th all the way up to 2nd place. A fantastic run. Who do you have to thank for getting here tonight?
Coastal Safety Auditors, Northern Tool Equipment, and, Patriot Fire, and DJ Beverly, and Nick puts on a pretty good show, so it's a pretty fun night, man. I'm glad. I need to get the bad luck off of me, man. I've tore up a bunch of race cars in the last couple of weeks. So.
Well, I do have one last quick question here. How much do you rub it in when you finish ahead of Jeff there?
What are you talking? That's a normal occurrence. He's still learning. Nah, he's still learning, man. He's still got a good bit to learn, but he's out here racing. Guys been doing this for 20 years, and he has nowhere near that kind of experience. So he's having fun trying to not tear anybody's stuff up. So.
Well, I know what it's like to race with a brother. It's a ton of fun out there. But congratulations on a fantastic run here tonight and a bold call to stay out there at the end. That worked out well for you.
Yeah, man. See you guys next week.
Oh, so we'll see you next week, hopefully. We'll see how it all plays out. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
All right, there you go, Tommy Ryan, man. Like I said, right pit call tonight here. Paid off with the 2nd place here. But this guy on rails, Anthony Navarro, Joe White in the booth, got a copy?
Yeah, how you doing?
Man, you had that thing on rails tonight. I don't know if anybody had anything for you, but what was going through your mind on that last caution there?
First, I was trying to figure out how the caution came out because me and Timothy there I think we had it pretty much wrapped up, and the caution comes out. So I was like, that's our reserve. The big debate in the team was, should we pit? Should we not pit? I knew there was only one attempt for the green white checkered, and I also knew the new tires for the first 3 sets of corners they're pretty pushy. It's tight and there's not a lot of grip. So I thought if I could get maybe 6-7 guys, and I think more than that even stayed out, I would have a good shot as a leader. And I was only about a half second down on pace versus the tires there, where we ended up that run. So I felt pretty confident there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about it. When you stayed out, if everybody behind you would have pitted, then it might have been a different scenario, but it worked out great for you because you had about at least 8 or 9 cars behind you stay out there. Timothy Johnson was the first one, so awesome run. But you had this thing, man, hooked up tonight. A lot different from last week at Darlington. I mean, this track, was any kind of filling out process or anything you saw that maybe you had better than anybody else?
I had track position from the start. I think that's what helped me out the most. That thing just drove like a dump truck. I don't know what was going on with that setup. It was just not. It wasn't fun to drive. Let me put it that way. You just had to kind of just split the seams and try to mash the throttle to get it to rotate. It was bad. That thing would not turn in a cornfield.
Hey, well, like I say, you found something out tonight. You had the thing on rails. I mean, the baddest car out there, and it was definitely fast. So awesome win here tonight at Homestead. Anybody you want to thank for it?
Yeah, you guys up at the booth at OSRN, you guys do a great job each week, and I look forward to the opportunities when I get to talk to you. Also, all the guys at Dizzy, Tim, good run tonight. Nick, Shane had a little issues tonight, but he'll get back up there. And everyone in the field, we have a good race every week, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. I think we only had a couple cautions tonight, so definitely heck of a run. But again, congratulations on that win tonight there, Anthony.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go, Anthony Navarro. And I tell you what, Jeff, man, like you say, coming off of last week, again, just too tough to tame track to tonight. Outstanding, what 2 cautions here and a green-white checker, a lot of green flag running. I mean, what more could you ask for in a race?
I can't think of anything else that I could ask for in a race. I mean, the guy that was the fastest car all night It seemed like he was the fastest car, and Brian Macklin might have had something for him towards the end, depending on how it all played out. But the fastest guy just went out there. He dominated over the long run. He dominated on the short run, as we saw there at the end. It was just a really great race all around. We saw a big mistake by Brian Macklin, and to fight all the way back from that, try and play some strategy, it was just awesome to see. I could not have asked for a better race.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to leave here at Homestead, folks. Hope everybody enjoyed it out there for the Nemesis Lab K&N series presented by the Sim500. It was a good one here with Anthony Navarro putting it in victory lane. Everyone, have a good night.